Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Hey, welcome to the show, Mike. Glad to have you here.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Look, we've been chit-chatting a lot lately, especially as my team has been kind of interested in moving into your specific deal strategy, which is agent outreach and doing deals of on-market properties. Really love to get into this because this is something that everybody needs to know how to do if they're wholesaling, if not just a additional market channel. It could be your primary source of wholesale deals, and you're the man to go to for
Awesome.
this.
I'm glad to be here to discuss that. Looking forward to a good conversation here.
Yeah. And look, we met on a wholesale deal way back.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a property maybe in East Point was the first time we met.
Yep.
And I sent it out. You ended up being on my list somehow. And then we also were working another deal,
Yep.
I think Daisy Drive in Decatur.
Mm-hmm.
And then you connected me with some guys there.
Yep.
Which was a crazy deal story. Maybe we could save that for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But just being in the business, being here in Atlanta, I know you've been doing wholesale deals, but you're also an agent.
Yes.
Did you get into this business starting off as an agent in the retail space, or did you jump in as an investor's agent off the top?
Yeah. And I think for me, my whole story in real estate, as far as wholesale goes, started back during the credit crisis. Basically, I was a heavy flipper back then. I was doing probably 40, 50 flips a year back before the credit crisis.
Now, are you talking the 08?
08. So basically I got out of it in 08 when everything kind of fell, and I kind of went back to kind of corporate America, and I got into stadium management. So I've been in 3 stadiums and was over kind of like the operations of the stadium department. In 2019, that was the last stadium I worked at, which was the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I kind of opened it up. I closed the Georgia Dome and opened Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Oh, awesome.
So had a chance to see a lot of good sporting events. So,
man,
but
me and you both, man. But I was on a different side of it. I was working at Brewster's Ice Cream.
All right, I know they're in there. Yeah.
I was at the Georgia Dome. Plenty of Michael Vick games, NCAA, SEC championships. I remember Florida Gators won back to back. It's always fun being around those sporting events.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
High energy. Yeah. So, because I told myself if I wanted to get into any type of corporate career, I wanted something fun like real estate was, because I didn't want to get out of real estate in 2008, but the market forced me out of it. In 2019, there was a restructure of the engineering department, and my position got eliminated at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I was like, man, what am I going to do now? I went back to real estate in 2019. That's kind of how I got into wholesaling first, and then got my agent's license.
Okay. I was just about to ask that. So when you first started flipping, were you already an agent, or did you just get into flipping? And tell me about that. Like, to get into like doing 40, 50 flips a year, like, was that just something that you stumbled upon? Was it something that you wanted to do since,
No, just years of watching the Carlton Sheets and going way back to Russ Whitney and Ron LeGrand. I was watching those guys, reading those books, like, man, I could do this, and just started doing it. Started wholesaling first before I really knew what wholesaling was. And then I started doing actual rehabs, a couple to hold. I had 13 that I held back then. But mostly what I was doing was flipping, because, basically if you could breathe, you had a opportunity to get a mortgage back then. So, you can sell houses to everyone.
And that brings up a good point. Is like, I've always liked to say, wholesaling is the cornerstone of all real estate investing. It's you can get your start in wholesaling. And even if you don't, you need to understand how to, market or off-market deals that are actually have meat on the bones, so not listed on the MLS. If you're not doing the marketing yourself, knowing wholesalers or knowing how to get access to inventory that's off-market. So, it always, typically starts with some form of wholesaling. And so, you started with that, you're doing a bunch of flips, market crash, went back to corporate. And then that opportunity ended. And you said, hey, let me get my license. What did you do with your license fresh out of the gate, was the goal to get your license just to be real estate related, or was it specifically to be a better rehabber or wholesaler?
Yeah, no, for me, it was always, I never wanted to be a retail real estate agent. So I knew from the beginning, I always wanted to be focused toward investments and investors and rehab projects. The thought process initially was we secure properties, we get the properties, we rehab the properties, and then we list them ourselves and put them back on the market.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why I wanted my real estate license. So, so that kind of evolved to, we worked for myself. When I say we, my wife and I, we both worked for Better Homes and Gardens, Metro Brokers here in Georgia. In 2020, or actually, it's probably, 2020, we decided to go ahead and open our own brokerage. We started at 100 American Dreams brokerage here in Georgia and also in St. Louis, because those are the two markets that we were still actively flipping in. So it always, like you said, it started with us wanting to be wholesalers, to be able to get the best deals. So even in our current strategy that we're going to talk about a little bit probably later in this conversation, I'm still cherry picking off the top, the good deals, because I'm a rehabber. So I think that any person who is even an investor, they need to learn this whole game of wholesaling, because that's how you get the best deals. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's shift gears, because I really do want to get into, this whole process of finding on market deals and agent outreach. Would you say that, one, if somebody says, hey, I want to start to find deals that are, coming from agents that are off market, would you say you should start with just reaching out to agents and asking if they have any off market opportunities that need work?
Yes.
Or would you start with looking at properties that are listed maybe for a long period of time, days on market is high, that looks like it could be a wholesale deal because it needs work?
Yes.
Would you start by reaching out to those agents that have those listings, and then also asking if they have an additional property off market?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would say, just to use an example of the group that I use, I use a group for leverage within a small, company that we've put together here. We do both methods. And the reason why is agent outreach is the long-term pipeline money. If you're just doing calling up an agent and say, hey, do you have anything off market coming to market, something that's an as-is condition, something ugly, something dated, something that you won't pass because of code violations. And primarily, it may not even pass FHA. That's the language they understand. This property won't go FHA. And that for that reason, you can't get a 203K. You can't get a loan to even cover the repairs. So we want to just paint the picture that we want the ugly stuff. So don't send me something that's pretty and all polished, and your description talks about lakefront property with this. We don't want that stuff.
Right.
We want the stuff that says, hey, handyman special needs TLC. Bring your contractor. That type of stuff. So what I'm saying is that's the long term play, because, and going back to what I was saying earlier, if you decide to do a business with no marketing spend, the exchange for it is going to be the reputation. The rapport building and the conversation with that agent to build the confidence that they can start sending you the stuff that is off market or coming to market, or the listings that when they walk into it, they say, man, how am I going to list this thing? Or how am I going to sell this thing? Because most agents don't even want to deal with that stuff. So that's the value add that we bring. And really, that's how we want to approach them. This is the value add we have for you. We'll take those things from you, give you a quick cash offer. We'll save you from even putting this thing on the market. So that's the approach for agent outreach, which is a long-term play, just like direct to seller. You're just constantly following up with that agent until they have something, because that type of stuff does not come across their desk every day. But if they can think about Mike, when they do get that, if I'm in their mind enough because of my follow-up, then that's all I'm asking for on the agent outreach. So that's the long play. The direct to MLS is the instant money. And, but you don't go after stuff that's straight on the market. It's too much competition for that kind of stuff. And we're always seeking, just like direct to seller, we're seeking motivation. So typically motivation is not there.
So maybe something that's been listed 50 plus days, something like that on the market. Those are the ones to go after.
Yeah, our rule of thumb is 45. It used to be 60 days, but since we do so much volume and we at a minimum put 10 of those in our pipeline a day, we scaled it back to 45 days because, it's always stuff that's coming behind that's going to age out. But at some point, if you're doing this consistently, you're going to see all the deals in your market and if you're doing it right, that means you've already offered on it, right. And so that's how you build that pipeline. But that's where the quick money comes from because we're still just seeking motivation, and you get motivation through time. The timeline gets you to motivation. So the more seasoned, the better. Yeah.
So give us some pointers on this. Is this something that when you do find something, and I want to just say for folks, look, if you go after stuff that's already listed, that's, looks like it could be a wholesale deal, needs work, and then also ask them for additional properties in the future, you're kind of killing two birds with one stone.
You are.
But do you suggest writing up offers yourself? I know we've talked about this before, like, even just sending an intent letter, like an offer intent letter. So not actually fully writing up an offer, but let's say this is something that, all right, you want to get a hard offer on. Are you, telling this agent that, hey, you can represent me? Can you write this up? Like, what's your approach on actually, getting something under contract with a listed property that could be a wholesale deal?
Yeah, so it's a process, and I think a lot of times people hear the analogy of throwing spaghetti against the wall. We try to avoid that, especially within the group that I have, which is the 50-10 quality over quantity, and it actually is what it is. We do 50 agent outreaches a day. And then we do 10 MLS deals a day. That's the goal for everyone within my group. 50-10 quality over quantity. So the conversations are always quality, and we don't submit an offer unless we have a quality conversation. And typically how that works is, you can throw spaghetti against the wall and just put out a bunch of offers, but a lot of times that offer is not going to even get submitted to the actual seller. Yeah. So it's a process of, going back to rapport building, going back to them understanding that you're an authority in what you're doing. And that's kind of how the professionalism you have to have a little bit when you're dealing with an agent, so that they know that they're not just dealing with somebody that's just trying to, whatever they're trying to do with it. They want to act as if they're speaking to a real person who understands what they're saying. And we always respect their opinion. So that's the first thing we do is we get their opinion on comps. Hey, what do you think this thing could sell for if I go in there and make it pretty and, and put it back on the market, kind of HGTV style, and then we hope for them to give us some comps, or they may give us a number, but then I'll ask them to give me comps to verify that number. I'll say, oh man, I think we missed that comp. Can you send over what you have? We already know going into the conversation what the value is. We're just trying to get their opinion on price. And then number two, like, man, I see that this house needs a roof and needs a new kitchen, bath, whatever. What are you seeing on renovation? What do you think this thing is going to cost? Some agents are going to say, oh, I have no clue. You're going to probably get your contractor over there. We could push back on that a little bit, but if you was a guess, what do you think? And then if they don't give us that number, then we'll give it to them based off of the formulas that we use for square feet, the $45 to $50 for cosmetic, the $65 to $70 for gut. And then if we have to do a room addition, we'll add the $125 per square foot for room addition. So we're going to give them the number. We just want them to feel like they're a part of this whole process instead of us. And what it does, it eliminates the whole question of we're not taking any lowball offers because we're positioning. Because the only thing that gives a property a value is condition and comps. There's nothing else. The condition of your property and the comps around it gives that the property its value. And we offer 100% of the as is value. There's no lowball offers here, but sometimes you have to spell that out to the point. And after you go through all of that conversation and you present your offer, you still have to just direct the seller. You still have to say, hey, so when do you think we can get back on the phone? I have 10 o'clock tomorrow open and I've got 4 o'clock tomorrow. I just want to hear back what the seller thinks about my offer. And then there's a level of what we give away. Because a lot of times people that do this technique, they give away the gold up front, and you never should. And when I say that is, they'll say, hey, here's my offer. My offer is 125. And also I'll come in unrepresented. So you can represent me and get the 3% on the seller side. And, so they'll give all these things up front, and they don't have anything to negotiate on the back end. So when I have that follow-up conversation the next day, if there's a counter, then I would basically say, okay, what if I come in unrepresented, and basically instead of the seller having right now until the rules change, instead of the seller having to pay that 3%, we either give that back to the seller so it's more money in his pocket, or you take it and you make 6% off of this transaction opposed to just the 3% on the seller side. And then if that doesn't work, I'll escalate it up, because I'll initially come in with low EMD. I'll say like 1,000 or something. I said, what if we come in at $3,000 EMD? We come in unrepresented, and so I ramp up my offer basically. And my third one is the last thing I do is price. And I'm only going to go up like 2,500 because if we've underwritten the property right, we don't get into that whole back and forth of numbers, because the number is the number, and I can be confident about that because it's based off of the comps and the condition. I can be very confident about my number. So I'm not going to play that game of, oh, no, the seller wants 150 and that's it. You can't, because we got to think about the buyer in the back end. Because at that point that's when the conversation becomes, well, I'm probably not your buyer on this one, and they go into a follow-up sequence. But then I would go into the conversation, hey, do you have anything else that might be a better fit for us? We're still looking to keep our crews busy. We're looking for our next rehab opportunity. So that's that two play that you get out of that conversation, where now you're doing the agent outreach and you're doing the direct to MLS at the same time. And that counts for your 50. In our group, that counts for part of your 50. So if you have 10 offers going out, then typically you've got 10 of your 50 done already by just doing MLS strategy, and not, yeah. So and
100% virtual, right? You're not necessarily like, I'm sure some agents are like, hey, I want you to see the property first before you make an offer.
Yes.
You're saying, hey, no, I can make my offer just based off of the condition and the comps. You already got pictures in the listing.
Yes. And think about it, and the play on that is because there's going to be some corporate agents that's just their protocol, that they want somebody to see the property before they offer on it. No blind offers. You'll see it all in the description. No blind offers. But for a typical seller, typically what we'll do is, we'll just use the conversation. Hey, we're doing multiple projects. It'll be irresponsible for me to pull my project manager or even to send a contractor over there to look at this property. If you guys are not even considering my offer, I need to at least know that you're going to consider this offer before I pull a guy off the job site or pay $200 for my contractor to do an estimate. That'll be bad business for me if you're not even thinking about taking my offer in the first place. So you kind of make sure that at least you have a chance with getting the offer accepted before you take the time to send somebody out to look at it. And the only time that doesn't work, like I said, is when you're dealing with a lot of corporate buyers, because what you're going to come across with direct to MLS is a lot of hedge fund inventory that's coming back that they're taking out of inventory. So there's agents out there listing stuff that's being managed by a broker who manages the inventory for hedge funds. And in those scenarios, a lot of times they kind of try to force your hand to go look at it first, which of course you can use somebody from TaskRabbit, or if you're local, you can also just go over and just run by and say, hey, I went to the property, I looked at it, and just like I thought, the renovation is $75,000, whatever.
Right.
So,
doesn't change my
yeah.
Exactly. So real quick, if say somebody, because there's a lot of folks that are listening. I know there's some solo preneurs, like one man shows, but say somebody's been in this business, maybe they have a virtual assistant that can actually talk to sellers, right? Could a team like that, how effective could, one person and an assistant or one person and an acquisition manager be? Can you use, your virtual assistant or acquisition manager to do any of this? Or does this require, the person that is stateside, a U.S. citizen to have these conversations with agents? Because, agents can sometimes be fickle and they're already, worried about who's a wholesaler, who's not, who's going to waste their time, who's not. How can you leverage your team to do more of this activity? Yeah.
And so the first part, I know for sure on agent outreach, you can leverage it through software, through CRMs and through automation, text automation systems, because, in that business it's volume, just like direct to seller. You're just trying to hit and touch as many agents as possible and say, hey, this is Mike. I'm reaching out. I'm an investor here locally. and we're seeking our next renovation opportunity. And then a lot of times I even start that, it took some time to tweak that outgoing message to the point that it made sense. For me personally, I never insert the agent's name in the first outgoing message. And then also I'm never specific on the fact that I'm looking for investment property up front. So I said, hey, this is Mike. Hey, I'm looking for information on a property in Atlanta. And then just kind of soft put that out there. And then as they respond, then we get deeper into the conversation. And then a lot of times some agents will want to get on the phone and some agents won't. Of course, you'll build better rapport if you get on the phone, but then sometimes you're just effective with that first outbound, just being a text message. Because as I said, this is the long play, because you want them to keep seeing your name, every 14 days or whatever it is that you put the cadence for the follow up until you hit them at the right time and right place and the right time. There's so many deals that we've got at the last minute because on text message number 8 follow up, it was like, oh man, you caught me just right before I was about to list this property. I got this property over on Elm Street, and it's it just got out of probate, and they just signed off on it, and we've got a few probates like that over the last 6 months, just because right place, right time. House is ugly, house is sitting vacant. The seller just wants to sell it. He just finally got through this probate situation, and the agent was just about to list it, but they're worrying about cleaning it out and all kind of other stuff. So, so it's just building that pipeline of those and just understanding, just like every other process in this wholesale world, it's a follow-up game. Whether you're playing the MLS strategy or the agent outreach strategy, you still got to understand that there's a process and there's a follow-up in the pipeline that you have to do. And to answer your question is yes, from a VA standpoint, no doubt anyone can do the agent outreach side of it. It gets a little bit more tricky on the MLS strategy unless you have a really well-versed person, and that person that can have the conversations with enough authority, with enough confidence that they sound like a buyer on the phone with the agent.
Yeah.
Which is exciting for me, because my next rollout is just having agents do this technique, because they're the most people with the best authority in doing this business. And the conversation changes. When you're talking to another agent, it becomes the shields are down. When you come in as an agent and saying, hey, I'm looking for off-market properties coming to market, properties in as-is condition, the fixer-uppers. I work with a group of investors, and I'm also an investor myself. And, do you have anything that fits this criteria? And so you don't have to go through this, oh, you're a wholesaler and all that other stuff, because they understand we speak the same language. So, yeah.
No, good stuff. Let's just talk real quick numbers, because I do want to hear, one of the types of deals that you've done, but just how lucrative can this be? Because, doing some folks that are just doing JV deals, the spreads are usually thinner because you're splitting a deal amongst, another party, right? But, on these types of, agent outreach, agent off market properties and deals, if you were to put in, call it, the 50 outreach, 10 offers a day for, let's call it a span of, 3 months or so, what should you expect, amount of deals, number of deals, and maybe an average deal price? How lucrative can this be for a team?
Yeah. So if you're doing both techniques, it's going to be a blended return. And then you hit it on the head. You've got to commit to at least 90 to 120 days of consistent outreach, consistent offers, build the pipeline up with offers, create some type of follow-up automation for your offers, so that every 14 days, it's following up and saying, hey, I'm still very interested in this property. I see it hasn't sold, or has it sold? And then also, do you have anything else, that may fit my criteria? So that's going on in the background always. But as far as what we found to be the most lucrative side is direct to agent. And probably for me, well, I know our best deal during that was about 38,000, but we're just really starting to crank that up. I just started the process of scaling this side of it the last 60 days. I think I was telling you, I don't have my full team yet, but everybody's on the 50-10 model. We're on a Zoom call every morning, and we do a virtual office every morning. So we're all kind of there, and I'm more of a support a lot of times, underwriting or doing what we call the phantom or ghost offers and things like that. But if you keep that cadence of 90 days, 120 days. There's no reason that, 4 to 5 deals a month through that pipeline, on average. And I wanted to be conservative, because, you can probably do 10, but I wanted to say 4 to 5, because I don't want to, and it's hard, when I say it's hard, it's hard because you have to be consistent. And the biggest thing, the reason why I have the virtual offers is for accountability, because most people in this business, it's hard to be accountable for themselves. But when you have other people around you, and especially when those other people start getting contracts, then it kind of sparks you to get right, because that's the hardest part is to get right and getting your mind to the point that you do the work, and the work is hard just because it's just a lot of conversation. It's a lot of outreach, but you got to do that to build the pipeline. And then that way you can start handing it off to other people, So on the MLS strategy, you're going to average on those probably 10 to 20,000 is going to probably be the best that you get on those deals, just because now, and there's some one-offs that you get, but I'm just trying to say on average, because you don't want to mark them up too much. A lot of times at minimum, you need to get them under 50,000 of the list price, because, we still have to give a value add to our buyer. So if our buyer sees that, hey, the property's on MLS for, 189.9 and we're trying to wholesale it for 179.9, most buyers are going to say, hey, that's, I could have did that myself. But if you bring it to them for 149.9 or 159.9, then now it's a value add. And then of course you can't mark up too much on top of that. So we typically do 10,000 on top of that so that it keeps it still very competitive, because there's no marketing spend, so we just, the more we can lock up at the right price, it's just the art of the conversation of getting it locked up at the right price.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, look, this next segment is the Deal Diaries section of the podcast. I'm curious, what do you have a deal, interesting story that, from your experience in this and or prior, that you can share with us to give us a sense of how these deals go?
Awesome. Of course, I have a lot on both sides of the business, whether it's a rehab, because I do a lot of gut rehabs, but I'll talk about probably the most recent situation that we had. And it gave me the aha and the epiphany of how this whole cadence of what we're doing actually really works. We had a property, I believe it was listed for like $270,000. It was a gutted property, but it was in a neighborhood that the values are probably 690, 700, a real nice North Georgia area. So we were playing what we call volleyball with the offer, with the agent and the seller. And we just could not get the seller to agree to a number. So what we do, going back to what I said before, we utilize leverage of the people in relationships around us to go in and to offer numbers far below what we have it or what we're trying to get it for. And of course, from a seller's standpoint, is I definitely don't want to go with these lower offers. This other guy he's low, but he's not as low as these other guys. So it forced them to our guy who we thought was going to get the offer anyway, by using the leverage of the other investors within our group's offer. So on this particular deal, we got it locked up. We got it down to 230, and then we wholesaled it to an investor for 259.9. And basically what happened in that particular deal, it sounds like he ended up selling it to someone else or wholesaling it to someone else. So he got paid the wholesale fee. The agent got paid. Wow. And then when we do that ghost method, we make sure that everybody within that transaction also get paid. And then I got paid. So I think it was like 6 people that got paid off of that one deal, just because of good negotiation. And what I call it is the market has spoken. And what we did, we just forced the decision. Because, they talk about in selling, you shouldn't have to just really sell a person. You just got to just persuade them to come to the number that they need to come to. And that's all. Yeah. That's all that we did, is we just elevated that process and let her know that the market has spoken. This is what your value is. And then she finally took that offer, and we all ate off of it. So, and I always love deals when a lot of people get fed off of them. That's the greatest thing in the world. To help a lot of people in the situation. So yeah. Yeah,
man. Yeah. Everybody eats.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's good time.
Amazing deal. Yeah. Well, look, I can't let you go without putting you through the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I guess I am. Let me sit down.
All right, let's do it. So look, I have a series of rapid fire questions for you. You don't know the question. I don't know your answer. So just say the very first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What's one book that's been instrumental to your growth as a real estate investor?
Oh man, I would say, well, there's two, but Think and Grow Rich. Like I think everybody goes to that one, but I can't say my second. But everybody knows that one too, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. But
Good stuff. If you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would love to have coffee with Mr. Peoples, the big developer guy in DC, because that's ultimately where I want to get to, is the point that I'm actually developing on the scale like he's developing, not just a neighborhood rehab, or development, but he's actually going after the largest minority owned development in the world, or not just minority owned, but the largest development ever created. And it's going to be all minority driven. So just to get in his brain for a day in coffee, I think I'll take so much value from that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah. If you could think of one mistake on a deal or business in general that you could do over, what would it be?
Oh, just my biggest mistake was, and it happened really back when things were starting to change in the market, is purchasing real estate without multiple exit strategies before you get into it. So now anything that I do, I have to have another out besides just one exit strategy. And I only buy based off of cash flow, if that is the case. So either I'm going to sell it, or it's got to be able to cash flow on another second exit strategy. And that just learned from mistakes where I only had one exit strategy, is to sell, and it didn't work out, and I had to pay money out of pocket to keep the property.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. What's your best advice for someone looking to do their first an agent off market deal?
First agent off market deal is just really build up your confidence. Come in with a mindset of you're the buyer. So think of your end buyer before you even pass it on to your end buyer. What would your end buyer need? What would help to make this transaction successful for your end buyer? So I guess it's kind of like, have the end in mind, and the end is the end buyer. So just come in the seat, be in the seat as the buyer, because that's that, and have that confidence and authority that you are that buyer. So don't think of it as if you are doing the wholesale strategy, don't think of yourself as just a wholesaler. Always think of yourself as the buyer, So
love it.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Yeah. What's the financial goal that you have for your team for this calendar year?
Yeah.
Like you guys want to do X amount before the end of the year?
Yeah. So we're targeting 1.5, but we'll settle with 1 million. And I'm still growing this group, because like I said, ultimately what my group looks like, it looks like it's going to be 7 acquisition people, 2 dispositions, and 1 transaction coordinator, and myself. And I'm paying dual roles because right now we're keeping that at 10, and we're about 5 people into that group at this point. So
love it. And guys, that's with minimal marketing spend. So even better. If you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing that you go out and purchase with that newfound money?
The first thing that I would purchase is land for development. And I would, part of what our brokerage is, 100 American Dreams, is it's been like a goal that for every 100 properties that we renovate, we would gift a property. I haven't done 100 yet myself, like rehabs recently. So I'm trying to get to the point that I'm rehabbing to the point that I get to 100 renovations, so I can gift it to a needy person. Not just anybody. It's a person that's really trying to do something, and they just all things are stacked up against them, whether they have a sick child or whatever it might be. To be able to do that, that's what I'll do is implement the process to get that program in place. So
that's a really noble goal. Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
And last one, what is the best advice that you would give to the person that's struggling kind of deal to deal? They're looking to really scale and start to have consistency in their business. What advice would you give that person?
Oh man, I tell you, this is a really good one, and I wish I followed it from the beginning. Get good only at one thing. Don't try to wear all the hats. So if you're going to be acquisitions, be acquisitions. If you're going to use a specific strategy, use that specific strategy. Stick to that specific strategy, and then scale from there. get really good at that one thing. And then once you're really good at that one thing, teach that one thing to someone else. And then now you go work on the second thing, but don't do like me where I was acquisition, I was disposition, I was direct to seller, I was, JV, and I was doing all these different things. I was good at them, but I wasn't great. And then until I started getting hyper focused on the one thing is when I really started seeing the results because I became an expert in it. And that's the biggest mistake a lot of us have because there's so much that can be so overwhelming when you're trying to do this business. But if you get so hyper focused in the one thing and just, outsource or partner with other people in the other thing until you can take on both, that's what you want to do. That's the biggest advice I can give you. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. Really great stuff, man. I really, really appreciate it. And everything that we learned, just aside from your background about exactly how to go out and make these connections, what it takes to, actually get the ball rolling, how to communicate with agents, how to make offers, how to comp properties, and really just the nuts and bolts about, what a deal really looks like when you factor in some of the additional fees and expenses. Really, really helpful stuff. How can folks get a hold of you? I know you got the group that you're building now, the 5010 group. Somebody wanted to be a part of that. How can they reach out to you and learn more?
Yeah, the biggest or the fastest, easiest way is Instagram. I'm basically at Michael Moore Deals on Instagram. You can still get me on Facebook from Michael Moore. But yeah, that's probably the best way. You can also email me at mike@100americandreams.com. That's pretty much my brokerage email, but I do a lot of business out of that email address. So those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Yep. And guys, that'll be in the show notes. So just check the show notes for contact. And while you're at it, head over to sendmoreoffers.com, guys. There's nothing there for sale, just a bunch of great information and show notes, but it's also the best place to get a hold of me. I've been working with some folks, kind of one-on-one consulting, just helping folks put together their business plan and business strategy going forward. If there's anything I can do to help, you can book a call with me there. And if I'm not the best resource for you, I'm going to point you in the right direction to help you really maximize your business in this calendar year and beyond. Look, Mike, it's been great. I really, really, really appreciate it. And love to, have this conversation. And, I know we're going to be working together and doing more deals in the future.
Yep.
So let's just keep it going.
All right. Let's send more offers too.
Yes, sir. As always, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time. Peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com. And be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.